The silver spacecraft descended through the snowy December sky like a massive ornament, its smooth surface reflecting the twinkling Christmas lights that adorned every house in the small town of Pine Ridge. Olivia Pierce stood on the town hall steps, her diplomatic credentials feeling unusually heavy in her coat pocket. At 32, she'd never expected her role as the town's international relations coordinator would extend to, well, interplanetary relations. The ship's landing sent soft waves of displaced snow drifting through the air, the crystalline flakes catching the light of the ship's gentle blue glow. Unlike the aggressive invasions of science fiction, this arrival felt more like a graceful dance, choreographed to avoid disturbing even a single strand of Christmas lights strung across the town square. "Well, this is certainly going to be an interesting Christmas Eve," muttered James Henderson, the town mayor, who stood nervously adjusting his red and green striped tie beside Olivia. The gathered crowd of townspeople watched in hushed anticipation, their planned holiday celebrations temporarily forgotten. The ship's exterior shimmed like liquid mercury before a doorway materialized, flowing open like water. The first figure to emerge stood nearly 7 feet tall, with iridescent skin that seemed to capture and reflect the colors of the Christmas lights. Olivia's breath caught in her throat, not from fear, but from sheer wonder. The alien delegate moved with fluid grace, each step precise and measured. Behind this first figure came others, each unique in their coloring but sharing the same ethereal quality. Their clothing, if it could be called that, seemed to flow around them like aurora borealis made tangible. The lead alien approached Olivia, and she noticed with fascination that what she'd initially taken for patterns on its skin were actually tiny crystals that formed and reformed in endless, mesmerizing configurations. She carried something that looked remarkably like a gift-wrapped package. "I am Zyrex," the alien spoke, its voice carrying musical undertones that made Olivia think of wind chimes in a gentle breeze. "We come seeking to share in your celebration of joy and light. Our long-range sensors detected the increasing luminescence of your world during this season, and we found ourselves curious." Olivia stepped forward, her diplomatic training kicking in despite the unprecedented nature of the situation. "Welcome to Earth, and specifically to Pine Ridge. I'm Olivia Pierce, and we're honored by your interest in our Christmas celebration." She gestured to the decorated town square around them. "You've arrived on Christmas Eve, actually, the night before our main celebration." Zyrex's crystalline patterns shifted to form what Olivia could have sworn was a smile. "How fortunate. We bring gifts and stories from our world, and we hope to learn of yours. Our research suggests this is customary." He held out the package, which sparkled with a wrapping paper that seemed to be made of living light. The tension in the crowd began to dissolve, replaced by murmurs of wonder and interest. Someone in the back started humming, "We wish you a Merry Christmas," and the tune spread through the gathered humans like a warm wave. "Your thermal protection garments," Zyrex observed, looking at the crowd's winter coats and scarves, "they display such variety of color patterns. Is this significant to the celebration?" Olivia found herself smiling. "Some of them are specifically for Christmas, like this," she said, touching her own emerald green sweater with its pattern of silver snowflakes. "Would you like to learn more about our holiday traditions?" "Very much so," Zyrex responded, and Olivia noticed how the crystals on his face seemed to dance with excitement. "We have observed that this celebration involves gathering in designated structures, sharing sustenance, and engaging in synchronized movement to rhythmic sounds. We would very much like to participate." Mayor Henderson, who had been quietly watching the exchange, suddenly brightened. "The town hall Christmas party. It's already set up inside, we were just about to start when you arrived. Would you and your delegation like to join us?" The other aliens had drawn closer, their crystalline patterns shifting in what appeared to be anticipation. Zyrex turned to them, and some form of silent communication seemed to pass between them before he faced Olivia again. "We would be honored," he said, then hesitated. "Though we must ask, the hanging vegetation we observe in your structures, with white spherical growths, our scans indicate some cultural significance." Olivia followed his gaze to the mistletoe hanging in the town hall's entrance. She felt her cheeks warm slightly. That's mistletoe. It's a tradition that if two people stand beneath it, they're supposed to kiss. It's a gesture of affection or romance in our culture. The crystals on Xyrex's face swirled in fascinating patterns. Fascinating. Your species expresses affection through the pressing together of these. He gestured to his own face, where a human mouth would be, and Olivia noticed for the first time that the aliens had no visible features that corresponded to human faces, their expressions were all conveyed through the ever-shifting crystals. Perhaps, Olivia said diplomatically, we could start with some simpler traditions first. Would you like to learn about Christmas cookies and hot chocolate? The gathering of humans and aliens began to move toward the town hall's entrance, where warm light spilled out onto the snow. As they walked, Xyrex fell into step beside Olivia, his height requiring him to duck slightly through the door. Tell me, Olivia Pierce, he said, his voice carrying that musical quality that made her name sound like a melody, do all human celebrations involve such intricate customs? We find ourselves most eager to learn. As they crossed the threshold into the warmth of the hall, Olivia couldn't help but think that this Christmas Eve would indeed be unforgettable, for more reasons than she could have ever imagined. The town hall's grand room had transformed into a wonderland of holiday cheer, with garlands draping the ceiling and a massive Christmas tree commanding attention in the corner. The alien visitors created an ethereal display of their own, their crystalline forms catching and refracting the twinkling lights until the entire room seemed to dance with living colors. Olivia found herself playing cultural translator as she guided Xyrex through the party's offerings. This is what we call a sugar cookie, she explained, holding up a star-shaped treat decorated with silver sprinkles. It's traditional to leave these for Santa Claus, though that's a longer story for another time. Xyrex's crystalline patterns shifted in what she was beginning to recognize as curiosity. We have no equivalent to your solid nutrient preparations, he said, carefully accepting the cookie. Our sustenance comes from direct energy absorption. Nevertheless, he brought the cookie to where a mouth might be, and the crystals on his surface began to glow softly. The cookie slowly dissolved, disappearing into the light. Fascinating, he hummed, his tone carrying new musical notes. The molecular structure creates interesting energy patterns. Particularly the components you call sugar. The crystals across his form rippled with delight. We may need to revise our understanding of human ingenuity. Around them, the other aliens had spread throughout the party, each engaged with curious townspeople. One was carefully examining the Christmas tree with a group of children, its crystals matching the colors of the ornaments. Another was learning about candy canes from Mrs. Thompson, the local librarian, who had apparently overcome her initial shock and was now in full teacher mode. The town's musicians had set up in one corner, and the first strains of White Christmas filled the air. Olivia noticed Xyrex's crystals pulsing in time with the music. Your species creates auditory patterns for pleasure, he observed. We do something similar, though ours is more visible. As if to demonstrate, the crystals across his form began to shift and flow in complex patterns, creating a silent light show that somehow complemented the music perfectly. That's beautiful, Olivia breathed, watching the display. Would you like to learn how we dance to our music? Xyrex's crystals flickered in what might have been uncertainty. Your bipedal movement patterns are quite different from our own forms of expression. That's what makes it interesting, Olivia smiled, holding out her hand. Sometimes the best discoveries come from trying something completely new. After a moment's hesitation, Xyrex extended his own hand, a crystalline form that shifted and solidified into something more hand-like. The touch sent a warm tingle through Olivia's palm, like sunshine on a winter morning. She guided him to the dance floor, aware of the curious glances from both humans and aliens. The key is to feel the music, she explained, positioning herself. Let it guide your movements. We'll start simple. What followed was perhaps the most unique dance lesson in human history. Xyrex's natural fluid grace actually made him a quick study, though his height required some creative adjustments. His crystals continued their own light show, creating trails of color that followed their movements. Your species expresses joy through physical movement, Xyrex observed as they swayed to the music. We express it through light and resonance. Yet somehow, together, they create something harmonious. Other couples had joined them on the dance floor, human and alien pairs attempting to find common ground through movement and music. The sight of Mrs. Thompson attempting to teach the foxtrot to a 7-foot crystalline being would surely become town legend. As the evening progressed, someone brought out the traditional eggnog, leading to an impromptu physics lesson when the aliens became fascinated by the concept of combining proteins and spices into a celebratory drink. They couldn't consume it in the traditional way, but they developed a method of analyzing its molecular structure that made their crystals chime like bells. I must admit, Xyrex said during a quiet moment, as they stood near the Christmas tree, when we detected your holiday illuminations from space, we never expected to find such warmth. Our species tends toward solitary observation. We had no concept of celebration as a communal activity. Olivia watched as his crystals shifted to match the colors of the nearby Christmas lights. And now I begin to understand why your species dedicates so much energy to these gatherings. There is a different kind of warmth here, one that cannot be measured in thermal units. His crystals pulsed softly. Olivia Pierce, would you explain another custom? The purpose of these hanging appendages? He gestured to the tree's ornaments. They're decorations, but each one usually holds a memory, she explained, reaching out to touch a hand-painted glass ball. This one, for example, I made when I was 7 years old. It's not perfect, but it's precious because of what it represents. Ah, Xyrex's voice chimed thoughtfully. Like our resonance crystals, they hold patterns of significant moments. His form shifted, and suddenly one of his surface crystals detached, floating gently to hover before Olivia. Would it be appropriate, would you accept this as what you call a Christmas gift? It contains the resonance pattern of my first experience of your music. Olivia carefully took the crystal, which felt warm and seemed to hum gently in her palm. It's beautiful, she whispered, watching as it caught the light. Thank you. The crystal in her hand pulsed once, and for a moment, she could have sworn she heard the faint echo of White Christmas emanating from its depths. Looking up at Xyrex, she noticed his remaining crystals had taken on a softer, rose gold hue, a color she hadn't seen him display before. Above them, the star atop the Christmas tree seemed to shine just a bit brighter, as if acknowledging this moment of connection between two very different worlds. The evening had reached that magical hour when Christmas Eve seems to hold its breath, suspended between anticipation and fulfillment. The town hall's grand clock was approaching 11, its soft chimes nearly drowned out by the laughter and music that filled the transformed space. The initial awkwardness between humans and aliens had melted away like snow in warm hands, replaced by a genuine curiosity in growing warmth. Olivia found herself seated with Xyrex near one of the large windows, watching snowflakes dance in the light of both the Christmas decorations and the gentle glow emanating from the alien ship outside. The crystal he had given her rested warm against her collarbone, now hanging from a delicate silver chain someone had contributed to the cause. Your atmosphere's frozen precipitation creates such intricate patterns, Xyrex observed, his own crystalline surface shifting to mirror the hexagonal shapes of the falling snow. Each unique, yet following universal mathematical principles. Much like your celebrations, individual, yet connected. I've never thought of it that way, Olivia admitted, watching as his colors shifted to deep blues and silvers. Though I suppose Christmas is like that, everyone celebrates differently, but there's something that connects all those celebrations together. Their conversation was interrupted by an excited group of children who had spent the last hour teaching the aliens about Christmas carols. The results had been unexpected. While the aliens couldn't reproduce human vocals, their crystalline forms could create complex harmonies that complemented the human voices in haunting and beautiful ways. Time for the special performance, announced little Emily Watson, her Santa hat slightly askew. The aliens had been particularly fascinated by the concept of Santa Claus, leading to numerous discussions about the nature of belief and tradition. The impromptu choir assembled near the Christmas tree, children, adults, and aliens arranged in a loose semicircle. As the humans began Silent Night, the aliens' crystals began to pulse and chime, creating an otherworldly accompaniment that seemed to make the very air vibrate with harmony. Colors flowed across their forms in waves, synchronized with the music in a display that brought tears to more than a few eyes. Olivia felt the crystal at her neck resonating with the performance, sending tiny shivers of warmth through her body. She glanced at Zyrex and found his attention focused on her, his colors shifting to that same rose-gold hue she'd noticed earlier. "Your crystal," he said softly, his musical voice barely audible above the carol, "it responds to your emotional state. It has synchronized with you. Is that unusual?" Olivia asked, touching the warm crystal gently. "Very. Our resonance crystals typically maintain their original patterns." His own crystals swirled in what she now recognized as excitement. "But yours has adapted, created something new. Much like this entire evening." The carol ended, but the alien harmonics continued for a moment longer, filling the room with shimmering notes that seemed to dance on the edge of human hearing. The effect was mesmerizing, and when it finally faded, the silence felt heavy with meaning. The moment was broken by Mayor Henderson announcing it was time for the traditional Christmas Eve toast. The aliens, unable to participate in the actual drinking, created their own ceremony, their crystals chiming in specific patterns that Zyrex explained were used in their most significant celebrations. "We have a saying in our language of light," Zyrex told Olivia as the others mingled around them. The closest translation would be, "When patterns align, new beauty emerges." I never fully understood its meaning until tonight. Olivia watched as one of the alien visitors attempted to help a child hang a new ornament on the tree, their crystalline form gentle and careful with the delicate decoration. "I think we're all understanding things differently tonight," she said. "Sometimes the best gifts are the ones we never expected to receive." Zyrex's form shifted, elongating slightly as he turned to face her fully. "There is another custom we observed in our research, but have yet to witness. Your tradition speaks of sharing something called a Christmas wish at midnight. Would you explain this practice?" "It's the idea that Christmas Eve is magical," Olivia explained, aware of how the crystal at her neck seemed to pulse in time with her heartbeat. "That at midnight, you can make a special wish for something your heart truly desires." The crystals across Zyrex's form began to shift in complex patterns she hadn't seen before, creating depth and movement that reminded her of the Northern Lights. "And these wishes, do they come true?" "Sometimes," Olivia smiled. "But I think sometimes just having the courage to make the wish is magical enough." Around them, the party had taken on a softer tone. Couples swayed to slow Christmas songs, their shadows dancing on the walls alongside the ethereal light displays created by the alien visitors. Someone had dimmed the main lights, leaving only the Christmas decorations and the natural glow of the aliens to illuminate the space. The crystal at Olivia's neck grew warmer, and she noticed Zyrex's colors shifting again, rippling through shades she hadn't seen before. His crystalline form seemed to soften somehow, becoming less geometric and more fluid. "Olivia Pierce," he said, her name carrying new harmonics in his musical voice, "I find myself experiencing patterns of thought and feeling that are not common among my species. Your presence creates resonances I cannot explain through our traditional understanding of energy and light." Before Olivia could respond, the town hall clock began to strike midnight, its deep tones mixing with the gentle alien harmonics that had filled the evening. Christmas was about to arrive, bringing with it the promise of wishes and magic, and perhaps something even more unexpected. As the final stroke of midnight faded into the warmth of the decorated hall, something extraordinary began to happen. The crystals throughout the room, both those adorning the alien visitors and the one resting against Olivia's neck, began to pulse in perfect synchronization, filling the space with a soft, otherworldly glow that seemed to dance with the twinkling Christmas lights. "It's happening," Zyrex said, his voice carrying notes of wonder that made the air itself seem to vibrate. "The resonance patterns, they're harmonizing with your Earth's natural frequencies. We've never experienced anything like this." The other aliens had noticed it too, their crystalline forms shifting and flowing in response to whatever energy they were detecting. The humans in the room stood transfixed, watching as waves of light rippled through their visitors like aurora borealis brought down to Earth. "What does it mean?" Olivia asked, touching the crystal at her neck, which had grown wonderfully warm. "Your planet's energy field changes during this celebration," Zyrex explained, his form moving closer to her. "We detected it from space, but experiencing it directly, it's as if your collective celebrations, your Christmas spirit as you call it, creates a unique resonance pattern. And somehow, our crystals are responding to it." Around them, the party had transformed into something magical. The alien visitors had begun to emit soft chimes in harmony with the Christmas music still playing, creating a symphony that seemed to bridge the gap between their two worlds. Children watched in wonder as their alien guests created elaborate light displays that told stories without words, tales of distant stars and unimaginable journeys across the cosmos. "There's more," Zyrex said, his voice dropping to a musical whisper. "The crystal I gave you, it's not just responding to the planetary resonance. It's creating a unique pattern I've never encountered before. A harmony between your human energy signature and our crystalline frequencies." Olivia noticed that Zyrex's colors had shifted again, taking on that distinctive rose-gold hue that seemed reserved for their interactions. "Is that unusual?" she asked, though somehow she already knew the answer. "In all our travels, across thousands of light-years, we've never achieved direct resonance with another species." His form shifted, creating intricate patterns that reminded Olivia of falling snow and starlight. "Yet here, on this night you call Christmas Eve, we've discovered something unprecedented." Mrs. Thompson, who had been watching nearby, smiled knowingly and began to herd the other partygoers toward the refreshment table, giving Olivia and Zyrex a moment of relative privacy. The music had shifted to "Have Yourself a Merry Little Christmas," its gentle melody weaving through the alien harmonics. "In our culture," Zyrex continued, his crystals pulsing softly, "the sharing of resonance patterns is our most intimate form of connection. It is how we share memories, emotions, dreams. The crystal I gave you, it's becoming attuned to both of us, creating something entirely new." As if in response to his words, the crystal at Olivia's neck began to emit a soft melody of its own, a song that somehow combined the Christmas music around them with the alien harmonics, creating something hauntingly beautiful. Olivia felt tears welling in her eyes at the pure emotion conveyed in the sound. "I can feel it," she whispered, understanding flooding through her. The warmth from the crystal spread through her entire body, and in that moment, she could sense what Zyrex was experiencing, the wonder, the curiosity, and something deeper, something that transcended the barriers between their species. Zyrex's form shifted again, becoming somehow both more crystalline and more fluid at the same time. "Olivia Pierce," he said, her name carrying harmonics that made the crystal sing, "I believe I now understand why your species has so many stories about the magic of Christmas Eve. Some transformations can only happen when we open ourselves to possibilities we never imagined." The snow continued to fall outside, creating a gentle curtain of white that seemed to isolate their moment from the rest of the world. The party continued around them, but in their corner near the Christmas tree, time seemed to move differently, marked only by the pulsing of crystals and the beating of one very human heart. "Would it be appropriate," Zyrex asked, his form glowing with that unique rose-gold light, "to make what you call a Christmas wish at this moment?" Olivia smiled, touching the singing crystal at her neck. "I think," she said softly, "some wishes don't need to be spoken to come true." The crystal's song grew stronger, filling their quiet corner with a melody that spoke of starlight and snow, of journeys across vast distances, and of connections that defied explanation. Around them, the Christmas tree lights seemed to pulse in time with the alien harmonics, creating a cocoon of light and music that belonged neither fully to Earth nor to the distant world Zyrex called home, but to something new and wonderful that existed between the two. The first hints of Christmas morning began to paint the eastern sky in gentle pinks and golds, but inside the town hall, no one seemed ready for the magical night to end. The aliens' crystalline forms had taken on warmer hues that matched the approaching dawn, their harmonics blending with the soft Christmas music that still played. Olivia and Zyrex stood by the large windows, watching the transformation of night into day. The crystal at her neck continued its gentle song, now incorporating the subtle energies of the sunrise into its melody. The alien ship in the town square seemed to pulse in response to the changing light, its surface reflecting the colors of the dawn. "Your Earth rotates to face your star once again," Zyrex observed, his form shifting to capture the growing light. "We have witnessed thousands of planetary dawns, but none quite like this one. Everything feels different now, doesn't it?" Olivia said, watching as the crystal's light played across the falling snow outside. The warmth of the crystal had become so natural that she could hardly remember how it felt to not have this connection, this bridge between their two worlds. Around them, the party had transformed into a peaceful gathering of humans and aliens sharing quiet conversations and gentle moments. Children had fallen asleep on comfortable chairs, while their parents spoke in hushed tones with alien visitors, exchanging stories and insights. The barriers between species had dissolved throughout the night, replaced by genuine understanding and friendship. "We came seeking to understand your celebration," Zyrex said, his musical voice carrying new harmonics that made Olivia's crystal sing in response. "Instead, we have discovered something far more precious. Your Christmas tradition speaks of gifts, but the greatest gift has been this connection we never expected to find." Mayor Henderson approached them, looking tired but happy. "The sunrise service at the church will be starting soon," he said, then added with a smile, "You're all welcome to join us, of course. Though I suppose we'll need to modify some of the carols to account for your unique harmonics." The other aliens had gathered closer, their crystals pulsing with interest. One of them, who had spent much of the night learning about human holiday traditions from Mrs. Thompson, created a complex pattern of light that somehow managed to suggest both curiosity and respect. "We would be honored," Zyrex responded, then turned to Olivia. "But first, there is something we wish to share." He gestured to his companions, and suddenly all the aliens began to emit a synchronized harmony that filled the room with light and sound. The crystal at Olivia's neck joined the symphony, its song growing stronger and more complex. "This is our highest form of celebration," Zyrex explained as waves of color flowed through the room. "We are creating what we call a resonance pattern of significance, a living memory that will be shared across our entire species. This night, this celebration, this connection will become part of our collective experience." The display was magnificent, crystals pulsing with light that seemed to contain all the colors of Christmas, all the warmth of human celebration, and all the wonder of their unexpected meeting. The sleeping children began to stir, awakening to what looked like the inside of a rainbow filled with music. "But we offer more than just memory," Zyrex continued, his form glowing with that now familiar rose-gold light. "We propose an exchange, a permanent connection between our worlds. Each Christmas, we would return, bringing new understanding and celebrating the growth of this bond between our species." Olivia felt tears in her eyes as the crystal's song reached a crescendo. "Like a new holiday tradition?" "Yes," Zyrex's crystals pulsed warmly. "Though perhaps some of us might find reasons to visit more frequently than annually." His colors shifted in what Olivia had come to recognize as happiness tinged with something deeper, something that transcended the boundaries of their different species. Mayor Henderson, who had been listening with growing emotion, cleared his throat. "Well, I think I speak for everyone when I say that Pine Ridge would be honored to become a gathering place for both our peoples. Though we might need a bigger venue next year," he added with a chuckle. As if in response to his words, the alien ship outside began to glow brighter, its surface shifting to display patterns that matched the Christmas lights strung throughout the town. The effect was stunning, a perfect blend of human celebration and alien artistry. The crystal at Olivia's neck grew warmer, and she understood that it would forever be more than just a gift. It was a bridge between worlds, a constant reminder of this extraordinary Christmas Eve when the universe suddenly became both larger and more intimate at the same time. "Merry Christmas, Zyrex," she said softly, watching as the sunrise painted his crystalline form in shades of gold and rose. His response was both words and music, both light and emotion. "Merry Christmas, Olivia Pierce. May this be the first of many we share." As the town awakened to its first Christmas morning with alien visitors, the snow continued to fall gently, adding its own quiet music to the harmony of two worlds coming together. The crystal sang its joyful song, and in its light, the future seemed to hold endless possibilities, each one as bright and promising as the Christmas star itself.